to any place in history, where's the first place you would go?
Yeah, I would go back to the Garden of Gethsemane.
The Garden of Gethsemane.
It's the public park where Jesus was arrested.
You are obsessed with this.
Yeah, I think
you constantly talk about this moment when Jesus was arrested.
Yeah, it's why is that?
Is this in the Bible?
Yes, it is.
Also, dumb question. How many versions of the modern Bible are there?
I don't know how many, but I can think of at least 12.
And what's the difference between them all? Why are there so many versions?
Depends on the time that they're translated. And if you'll notice, a lot of them will follow the earlier authors. Right? Bible scholars don't read anything outside of the Bible. So how good do you think their vocab is? How good do you think their translation skills are? Mm-hmm. Right, that's the problem. So those translations are generally pretty bad, and that's what I brought some examples of.
Okay.
And this is in the garden, actually, that I brought these slides for.
Okay.
And this is the Garden of Gethsemane. And where are we? We're with Jesus in the first, and he's being arrested.
Okay, so let's give some context. Yeah. So who was Jesus, and what is so good? What is so great about him?
Yeah, Jesus is a guy who walked around with 12 children, and
all the time,
and prophets, and a group of prophets. No, I'm just telling you what the text says.
He was just a guy who walked around with
prophets and children.
So what was so great about him?
He called his disciples, and he calls them his children constantly. Right? Remember, God blesses those who take care of the children.
He takes care of these children.
He takes care of these children.
Okay.
There is a female underage called the Paidiska. When Jesus Christ is in his trial, his followers won't admit they're his followers. It's the whole, you're going to deny me, right? Jesus is all like, I'm going to get friggin' scandalized, right? And you're going to deny me. When he's in the garden and he gets caught. Mm-hmm. And those three, Peter, James, and John, they're keeping watch, the text says. They're guarding at a distance. While Jesus takes the wicked boy that's been assigned to him, that's what the text says, like a slave.
So the depiction of this event is only in one version of the Bible, is that right? Is it Matthew?
No, it's in multiple, but the kid is only in Mark.
Only in Mark?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's only like 2 sentences, right? Stephen, can you pull up the passage?
I've got it here.
Oh, you've got it there, okay. A young man wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus when they seized him. That's all it says.
Yeah. Now look at the Greek.
Oh, yeah.
And it says, a young boy was assigned to him, having wrapped his with a medicated bandage, and they arrested him.
A medicated bandage is what it says.
Sindon, yeah. I've got the first, let's go to the first one. The second word in is neoniskos, and that is what we call a diminutive.
Neoniskos.
So it's a little of something else. And what is a neonias? A neonias is a boy.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is a little boy.
Okay.
And they called paidiska female prostitutes who were underage.
Okay.
And when I say underage, I don't mean
Did they define underage down back then?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not under 18. It's before.
So, okay.
Right.
So that was their word for before.
Age was. They didn't set a year.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Right.
The translation here says young.
And was there was there any sort of moral boundaries when it came to sex or prostitution based on the pre?
Not from what I've seen.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, generally, in
Nothing.
different civilizations, you can still, like in Athens, you can still prosecute for somebody coercing what you and I would say is underage, them before. Yeah, that's still, you can get in trouble for that.
Okay.
But it's not like it's not like there's compensation involved because, it's not like a crime like you and I consider a crime. It's more like a civil crime. Yeah.
Okay.
Or like being punched.
Right.
Yeah, you've damaged somebody so you can give them reparations for damaging them.
Oh, okay.
That's what you do. But the pedagogy in antiquity, pedagogue, that person who raises, educates the children, right? That person, that's the Centauron, they called him. The centaur. It's their word for past.
Which means what?
With children.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and Chiron, remember Chiron, he's a centaur who is the master of Heracles. And now you know why Heracles has his boy Hylas. Do you understand? The sacred mystery is passed from generation to generation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, again, what was so special about Jesus? He was a guy who walked around with kids.
Yeah. Apostles. Yeah. So, what was so special about him?
Was he the only one doing that?
No. What was so special about, like, and that's perfect. No, he's not. It's called being a laestes.
What is a laestes?
He was crucified between two of these. So this is what the boy that was with Jesus, this is what he was with him, doing. He's following him. Notice they use this term sunakuletho.
And
right?
Where do you get this from? This image?
Thank you to the Victorians from Oxford, who have given us this wonderful, fantastic lexicon of ancient Greek, 1850s, after that book that you just had was written. And here it is. And notice that it's using soldiers. It's using term for soldiers and slaves, right? So this kid is not just hanging out with Jesus, right? People have tried to explain this for a while. What was the kid doing with Jesus, right? Okay, anyway, let's go on to the next one.
Double click. There you go. Now hit the green
blow
button.
it up. Look, this is what the kid is wrapped on his gumnos. And you say, what's gumnos? Gumnos
Fine cloth, usually linen.
Yeah, fine cloth. Look where look at the second line. It says busines telemones, right? So they're wrapping things in this
used
fine
for mummies.
Cloth, right?
And surgeon's bandages.
And bandages, and that's where I get it. On my end, when I'm reading the medical authors, they're all saying that you impregnate linen with drugs that you're going to treat the wound with, right? This kind of makes sense.
You impregnate linen.
Yeah. Don't impregnate the women.
With drugs.
Yeah.
To treat wounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that makes sense.
This is the original text, and this right here is the translation that we have right now, which is, I'll punch it up for people, nothing but a linen garment.
Yeah. Notice how they took it from a bandage and turned it into.
Who did this? Who's responsible for this?
Crappy translators. People who do not work with the Greek. If you bring up the next one.
But is this an accident or is this intentional?
No,
these translations.
Intentional stupidity.
Are they intentionally leaving this shit out of the Bible? Because
no, it's bad training.
Oh, okay.
It's just bad training.
Okay.
Yeah. There we go. Now watch this one. Okay, so that last one had businos on it. Well, what is the businos? It's fine linen bandage, right? They give you at the top. But then look at the reference on the second line. That's Euripides Bacchae. Okay, so this is something that they're using within some kind of religious ritual. And look at number 2 at the bottom. Roman numeral number 2, porphyrus. That's Hesychius. And who's Hesychius? Hesychius is a lexicographer from the 4th and 5th who comes in, and he has access to these ancient Greek lexicography texts, right? So before anybody was having any kind of substantial literature, the Greeks were already at the level, and these are ancient Greeks, they're already at the level of creating a language that is so highly specialized, we're still trying to translate it.
These translations that you've just pulled up, what does this have to do with, or what does this tell you about the scene of Jesus in the park?
That's exactly what this verse says right here. It says...
Can you zoom in on that a little bit?
Yeah, can we...
There you go. You just did it.
Yeah, and so he's... what happened? So Jesus is there, and it says the kid dropped the bandage and ran off naked. That's exactly what that says. The
Okay.
kid dropped the bandage and ran off naked.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it says specifically in 51 that it was epigumnos. And epigumnos is on his private parts.
An epigumna, which is the bandage that's soaked in drugs.
The sindon that's on there, right? And why? Why is Jesus with the kid? Remember? When he first walks in the garden, he falls over. He stumbles over and he's in pain. He's going through the exact same symptoms that doctors will describe
Jesus is?
of the drug users. Yeah, it's in this chapter. It's in Mark 14. Yeah.
So he's tripping.
It says that he's exceptionally fearful, right? So it looks like he's in some kind of psychotic fear. Mm-hmm. And he's screaming about, take it, don't let me do it. And he's with his kid. He's with this kid at the time, right? And he ends up with stuff on his face. Stuff that is like big drops of porphyrin.
I'm talking about bodily fluids.
Blood is how
Blood.
it's typically, no, that's how it's translated. It's not the blood that he's got, it's purple. And he's got an antidote from the kid's. That's the galene, is the kid's seed. Heracles has to have Hylas. He has to have his boy. Zeus has to have Ganymede. On the Priapeic side, they call it Ganymede's. And the question is, do you drink from Ganymede's?
I don't.
Well, that's why you're not in charge.
Yeah, probably. All right, bring me back down to earth here. What's going on in the park again? So Jesus has the purple on his face.
Yeah, he's got the purple on his
So
face.
Jesus is having some sort of a psychotic fit, right?
He's having
got
some kind of overwhelming emotional state that's hitting him so hard, he's falling on the ground. So he's got something on board that's causing him to stumble.
And it's 4 a.m. in the morning?
It's 4 a.m. Yeah. Yeah.
And he's got and who
he just came from the
who wrote this, by the way?
party with the kids. He just came from
Did
the
one
party.
of the cops write this? One of the cops that arrested him?
No, this is Mark. Yeah.
Mark was there.
Well, no, Mark is telling you the secret things that you're not supposed to know.
So how does Mark know if he wasn't there?
Yeah, well, I don't care if he does or doesn't know. The fact is he's saying them.
Okay.
And that's what's scary.
Well, how do we know Mark
You
didn't have
have
an
a
extra grind
religious-
against Jesus? You
you
want to
don't-
make Jesus look like a bad guy and make him look like a weirdo
Well,
or
he
a crazy
could.
person.
He could, maybe. I don't know, for all I know.
Right.
That's why I say we have to stick with exactly what the sources
The point
say.
is that this is what. Take it for what it's worth. This is what Mark said,
Yeah, and he said,
and Mark was not there.
no, it's Peter, James, and John, and the kid.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, Mark, where did Jesus come from before this?
Mm-hmm.
In the scene, he came from the place where he was with all the kids in the upper room. That's where they came from, right?
In what room?
In the upper room. It's just the way to refer to the place. Look, it was shady, right? This is part of the cops. This is part of what the cops have on him, right? He sent out a couple of his boys to go scout out a place. And when he did, he told them, hey, you're going to come to this guy. And he's standing there and he's doing this. And you got to approach him and say, Jesus' boys, where do we need a place for Jesus to celebrate? And he says, take him in here. And he finds a guy and they take him up. They get a shady backroom business. Remember, what does Jesus do with his boys? We all know this. That's why we're a crowd and we're angry and we want Jesus crucified. Now you understand why there was a friggin' crowd there. Yeah. A little bit brutal with him, weren't they? Well, yeah, they had good reason to be. He was with those 12 underage kids in that room washing feet. And you got to get when you wash feet. Have you ever washed somebody's feet?
Not that I can recall.
How about a 12-year-old boy?
No, absolutely not.
Now, why wouldn't you? Do you have some kind of problem with Jesus?
Apparently I do.
Yeah, okay. All right. That's too bad, because he ends up in the garden after this with the 3 older ones, and he says, keep guard while he takes the young kid off to the middle of the garden. In the meantime, they're falling asleep while Jesus is rolling around in agony and doing what he's got to do to get for the Galene from the boy. Mm-hmm. And that's the mastery here. The boy has some kind of antidote. Mm-hmm. Galen describes yeah, it's not milky.
Galen describes this.
Yeah, as long with the girls exudate from their breast. You can milk. You didn't know you could?
I did not know that.
Okay, we can, medically. Probably has antibodies in it to whatever the venoms they're using. Because these same girls, you cut them.
And this stuff?
You cut them and you wrap them with the snake venom. And that's why we all hold up the serpent. Right? We all know it. You see my tattoo? I'm waxing poetic. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Galen talks about this that boys and girls create, and he talks about this being used as an antidote to snake venom specifically.
It's the Galene.
It's a Greek term that means the calm after the storm.
Galene.
Thank you for tuning in. If this journey resonated with you, I'd be honored if you clicked like, subscribe to the channel, and rang the notification bell to stay updated on future content. Your support is invaluable to me. Stay curious.